Donald Trump has fully caved to all 10 of Iran's negotiating demands as Donald Trump was about to have his 8 p.m. Eastern deadline expire, where he said that he would obliterate the entire civilization of Iran. Iran didn't budge for weeks now. If you've been watching the MeidasTouch network, we've been saying Iran put forward a 10-point plan for its negotiating framework. The Trump regime put forward a 15-point plan for its negotiating framework, and Iran had always rejected the 15-point plan and said, we will only agree to a ceasefire or any deal with our 10 terms. And previously, the Trump regime said it was maximalist, that they would never agree to it, but Iran never budged. And moments ago, when Donald Trump announced that there would be a ceasefire, as we were hitting up against that 8 p.m. Eastern deadline where he said there would be total obliteration, Donald Trump confirmed that he would negotiate within the 10-point framework of Iran. Now, Iranian media is saying this is a crushing defeat for Donald Trump and the United States. I mean, as part of this 10-point framework, Iran gets to continue enriching uranium. It recognizes that Iran has full control over the Strait of Hormuz and will make $2 million per ship that passes. It recognizes that Iran gets to keep all of its ballistic missiles and drones. It recognizes that the U.S. must provide complete reparations to Iran. It recognizes that U.S. must immediately abandon its military bases in the Middle East. Folks, this is a complete and utter capitulation by Donald Trump. And I don't want you to think I'm being hyperbolic, so let's just go through the language. Let's see what Trump said. Let's see what Iran said. Remember my reporting on this 10-point framework. I mean, for weeks now, Iran's been saying 10-point framework, 10-point framework. And what I've been saying here on the MeidasTouch network is the only way I could imagine that there would be a deal is if Donald Trump basically fully surrendered and agreed to all 10 points. And that's exactly what Donald Trump did here. Let me just go through the 10 points for you that Iran has been saying for weeks now. Number one, a commitment to non-aggression against Iran, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and the Iranian Shiite groups in Iraq, continuation of Iran's control over the Strait of Hormuz, acceptance of Iran's uranium enrichment, lifting all primary sanctions from Iran, lifting all secondary sanctions of Iran, termination of all UN Security Council resolutions, termination of all Board of Governor resolutions, payment of compensation to Iran, withdrawal of U.S. combat forces from the region, cessation of war on all fronts, including against Hezbollah in Lebanon. That's always been the 10-point framework. So here's what Donald Trump said before as he announced the ceasefire. Now, Donald Trump and Hegseth and others from the regime may go on propaganda media like Fox and say, this was a win. Donald Trump's a negotiating master. This was a complete and utter surrender. The biggest wipeout in American history, period. The biggest loser of America ever historically. I'm trying to explain to you the gravity of the loss right here because I know American media is going to be like, oh, a deal's been reached and look at the stock market. Folks, America just said, we are out. We are done. We lose. Utter surrender. Just watch what Donald Trump says. Here's his post. Based on conversations with Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Field Marshal Asim Munir of Pakistan, and wherein they requested that I hold off the destructive force being sent tonight to Iran and subject to the Islamic Republic of Iran agreeing to the complete, immediate, and safe opening of the Strait of Hormuz, I agree to suspend the bombing and attack of Iran for a period of 2 weeks. This will be a double-sided ceasefire. The reason for doing so is that we have already met and exceeded military objectives and are very far along with a definitive agreement concerning long-term peace with Iran and peace in the Middle East. We received a 10-point proposal from Iran and believe it is a workable basis on which to negotiate. Trump is saying the 10-point plan is a workable basis on which to negotiate. And that had all of those 10 features that I just read for you. Almost all of the various points of past contention have been agreed to between the United States and Iran. So Trump's saying there, he's already agreed to most of these 10 points that I just read for you. But a 2-week period will allow the agreement to be finalized and consummated. On behalf of the United States of America as president, and also representing the countries of the Middle East, it is an honor to have this long-term problem close to resolution. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Donald J. Trump, that's his statement. What we're also hearing about this ceasefire is China was very influential in working with Pakistan, and Russia was involved as well. And Donald Trump just tapped out. He agreed to all 10. And it's not like he said, well, it's not just that he said it was a framework to negotiate within. He said that almost all of the various points of past contention have been agreed to already. So let's take a look at the statement from Iran's Supreme National Security Council, calling this a crushing defeat for the U.S., saying that they've been forced to accept their 10-point plan. Iran claims U.S. has agreed to continued Iranian control of the Strait of Hormuz, continued enrichment of uranium, war reparations, full reparations, and U.S. leaves its military bases in the region. Statement of the Supreme National Security Council of Iran on the 2-week ceasefire and negotiations. The enemy, in its unfair, illegal, and criminal war against the Iranian nation, has suffered an undeniable, historic, and crushing defeat. Thanks to the pure and sacred blood of the martyred leader of the Islamic Revolution, the Grand Ayatollah Khomeini, may God bless him, the measures of the supreme leader of the Islamic Revolution and Commander-in-Chief, Grand Ayatollah Mojtaba Khomeini, and the efforts and bravery of the Islamic fighters on the fronts, especially the historic, lasting, and heroic presence of your dear people on the scene from the very first days of the war, Iran has achieved a great victory and forced the criminal America to accept its 10-point plan. In this plan, America fundamentally commits to guaranteeing non-aggression, continuing Iran's control over the Strait of Hormuz, accepting enrichment, lifting all primary and secondary sanctions, ending all Security Council and Board of Governor resolutions, paying compensation to Iran, withdrawing U.S. combat forces from the region, and stopping the war on all fronts, including against the heroic Islamic resistance of Lebanon. We congratulate all the people of Iran on this victory and emphasize that until the details of this victory are finalized, there is still a need for the perseverance and prudence of officials and the preservation of unity and solidarity among the Iranian people. Now, in Israel, their leaders are basically saying they're shocked and horrified that Trump made this decision. Israeli sources are telling their Khan News, we were surprised by Trump's decision. We received updates in the final moments when everything seemed finalized. They say that we are committed to a ceasefire. But I think, as we all know, the question is Israel, UAE, all these other countries that believed that they were going to be working with Trump to utterly obliterate Iran and knock it off the map. I think they're going to feel betrayed. So I think that they're going to try to figure out, how do we break this ceasefire? And here's what we're learning. Right as these announcements are being made, it was being announced, we'll have to dig into what's happening. Purportedly now, ballistic missiles were launched from Iran towards Israel. Early warnings posted from Tel Aviv and Jerusalem areas. Whether that actually is happening or whether this is a pretext so that the ceasefire falls apart, I think there are going to be major efforts to try to break this ceasefire very, very soon. This is how it's being reported. Mere seconds after Trump announced what he calls a two-sided ceasefire with Iran, ballistic missiles launched against Israel by Iran have again been detected. Whether that happened or Israel saying they've been detected so that they can end the ceasefire, we have to dig in, but that's what's being reported. The UAE says it is actively engaging drones and missiles. So it claims that while the ceasefire is in place, Iran drones are striking UAE. Are they just saying that because they want to break the ceasefire, or is that really happening? Israel says it's detecting missile launching from Yemen. And meanwhile, Iran's military news is saying the orange pig chickened out again. We're seeing all of these taco memes yet again. Iran's Tasman state media says Trump has retreated. Israel's News 12 says Israel does not like this framework, to put it mildly, but Trump is calling the shots. So you can imagine what's going on behind the scenes right there. Going back to Foreign Minister Araghchi, here's the statement that he made as the foreign minister. Statement on behalf of the Supreme National Security Council of the Islamic Republic of Iran. On behalf of the Islamic Republic of Iran, I express gratitude and appreciation for my dear brothers, the Honorable Prime Minister of Pakistan, Sharif, and the Honorable Field Marshal Munir for their tireless efforts to end the war in the region. In response to the brotherly request from Sharif in his tweet, and considering the request by the U.S. for negotiations based on its 15-point proposal, as well as announcement by Trump about accepting the general framework of Iran's 10-point proposal as a basis for negotiations, I hereby declare on behalf of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, if attacks against Iran are halted, our powerful armed forces will cease their defensive operations. For a period of 2 weeks, safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz will be possible via coordination with Iran's armed forces and with due consideration of technical limitations. In other words, Iran now strongly controls the Strait of Hormuz, and it will be charging toll fees. $2 million. Now, the first day of these negotiations are supposed to technically take place now on Friday in Islamabad. We'll see how long this ceasefire holds, given the dynamic that I just expressed right there. But on Iranian TV, they are spiking the football. Trump has accepted Iran's conditions for ending the war, and a 2-week ceasefire has thus been declared. That's what they're saying in Iran. Now, right before the ceasefire was announced, we saw attacks by Israel and U.S. on a Arak aluminum plant, one of Iran's largest aluminum production facilities, supplying material used in construction, automotive, and defense industries. And earlier we saw Iran retaliate against its neighbors in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, UAE, and other nations. So we're going to be keeping a close eye on this. But as we said on the MeidasTouch network, Iran is declaring victory after Trump agreed to a ceasefire, saying the U.S. adopted Iranian terms, and it's hard to see it any other way. Iran's leadership openly celebrating what it called a crushing defeat for the United States after Trump agreed to a 2-week ceasefire and acknowledged using Iran's own 10-point framework as the basis of negotiation. I mean, do you remember when Barack Ravid, Donald Trump's main news outlet over at Axios, said, remember, a U.S. official tells me Iran sent on Monday a 10-point response for a proposal to end the war. But the U.S. official said the response was maximalist and unclear if it will allow moving forward for a diplomatic solution. And then Trump adopted the whole thing. That's the truth. That's the news. Those are the facts. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. And thank you for watching. Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.